One of my tips is, as much as I can, I try not to drink my calories. So I don't really do orange juice. I don't do milk. I don't do iced tea. And I feel like I could save a lot of calories throughout the day by just doing that.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. And today we have Sarah Shelton, and she is the owner of the Beach Boutique. It's an amazing online boutique, and she's got a location here in Chesapeake as well. She's married. She's got 3 kids, 12-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And she has an absolute perfect body. You've got to follow her on Instagram. She's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. If you're listening to this podcast, you might want to watch it on YouTube and follow our YouTube channel. But we are so excited to have you. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So as you know, I've interviewed thousands. I used to say over 1,000, but now it's probably close to 2,000 women that I've interviewed, asking them what they eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so we're going to just kind of find out your secrets of what you do. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So if you had to estimate, like, how clean do you eat? So like 100% clean, 90%, 80% of the time, how often would you eat clean?
I would say that if I had to estimate how often, it would probably be following the 80-20 rule. So 80% clean eating and 20% indulging.
Okay. And so like if you had to estimate, like, what would that look like in a week? Would it be like every other day, once a week? How often would you say that you would indulge in something kind of a little bit more not clean?
I would say probably one meal or snack every other day.
Okay. So talk about what that would look like in a week. What would you say?
So the meals that I would choose to indulge on might be like movie night with my family, having a glass or 2 of wine with some popcorn, or maybe going out with some girlfriends and getting a sandwich and a latte versus a salad or I might eat at home.
Okay, perfect. And so if you had to say, like, when you go to, let's say, Chipotle, if you were going to go to Chipotle, what would you say, like, what would you put on your Chipotle bowl?
I would stay away from the tortilla, and I would probably do salad, stay away from the rice, and do lean meat, so chicken, salsa, and maybe do like a sprinkle of cheese or guacamole, but nothing too high fat.
Okay. And then, like, how often would you say sometimes I have the sour cream and cheese? And like, how would you make that decision that you were doing that?
Yeah, if I was going to have the extra toppings that I wouldn't normally have, I would probably do it on a day where maybe I worked out that day, or maybe I'd already been pretty strict on eating clean the other meals. So maybe I feel like I have some extra calories or room to splurge a little bit on that one.
So one of the things I've heard people say when I'm interviewing all these people, they say, I look at things and I look at how big is the differential, meaning like, how badly do I want this versus that? So like, for example, they would say, like, if I was going to eat ice cream or if I was going to have frozen yogurt that was less calories, I might say, you know what, the frozen yogurt's going to still satisfy that need that I want for ice cream. But if I had something else, I would still feel satisfied. So talk about, do you have any stories kind of explaining that, of like when you're making decisions, like of should I have this or should I have that?
Yeah, so if I'm trying to decide if I'm going to just go with my craving or go with the healthier option, I would definitely say go with the craving in moderation. Like you said, frozen yogurt versus ice cream. If you had a whole cup of frozen yogurt versus a half of a cup or a third a cup of ice cream, it's going to even out to the same calories, but you're going to feel more satisfied. So one time I was in the store and I was really wanting these Valentine's Day chocolate covered marshmallows, and I'm like, no, I'm going to be good. And I went home not having that chocolate craving satisfied, and I ended up baking a whole batch of chocolate chip cookies and ate way more than I would have had I just gotten that little chocolate covered marshmallow. So I think as long as you're not giving in every day or every meal, and just kind of balancing those cravings, I would say just going with what your body wants, but just in moderation.
So if you had to put a time amount on it, you'd say, like you said, once every other day, you'd make that decision. Like you'd say, you know what, I already had something sweet. I don't need something sweet again. Or I already had something indulgent before. I'm kind of going to do it once every other day. Is that about what you would say? And then like if you were going to decide how often, let's say you were craving a chocolate cake. Okay. How many bites of that chocolate cake would you eat?
I would say I would try to portion it out to smaller, maybe a few bites, but still like just getting that little bit of it would probably make me feel a lot better than foregoing it altogether.
So in our interview with Miss Virginia Catherine Muldoon, she talks about some little tricks that she does. I know she talked about with her ice cream. She says like she just like literally like took a tiny little bit and then made it like railroad tracks in the ice cream, and she ended up only eating an inch of it because she savored it so much. What kind of tips can you tell people that you do something like that, of how you savor your food or how you can really make a lot last?
I might do like when it comes to ice cream, I might get some Halo Top, which is more natural base and lower calorie and fat content. And I might put some, like a few Lily's dark chocolate chips on it. So it kind of feels like a little bit like a sundae, but it has a lot less sugar, a lot less calories. And to me, that is still going to satisfy the craving. So I would say maybe finding a few different alternatives that will still satisfy, but could literally cut the calories in half.
Good. So give some more examples of that, of like things that you say, this is something I kind of indulge in, but it's really, I found an option that has less sugar or less calories that it does satisfy me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think also what some people don't realize is when your body's so used to such a high sugar intake, that's what you're craving and that's what's going to satisfy you. But over time, if you start slowly cutting that out, your body's going to respond to that. And the things that you used to think were like normal sweet level, now they're going to feel way over sweet. So I think even just focusing on kind of cutting back a little bit to begin with, and then afterwards things will, like I said, taste sweeter. So I mean, a banana has, I forget, but it's like 27 grams of sugar, which people wouldn't think that because it's fruit, it's healthy. But sugar content really has a lot to do with gaining weight. So that's one thing that I do try to focus on. So I mean, maybe taking like a few banana slices or strawberry slices and putting it over non-fat yogurt. Like I said, it might not sound like an ice cream sundae right away, but once you really start cutting out some of that sugar, it's going to really satisfy that sugar craving.
Awesome. Hey guys, we absolutely love getting your questions into the podcast, but we're also interested in your journey. So if you've started intermittent fasting and have some success or even struggling a little bit, we want to hear about it. Email me your intermittent fasting stories to Chantel@ChantelRayWay.com. Now back to the show. As far as like, let's talk about when you eat and when you stop eating. So let's just talk about like a hunger scale. Let's just say, like a 1, you'd be like ravenously hungry. And then, or actually 0 is ravenously hungry, but 1 would be like, I'm really hungry. And then let's say 5 is stuffed and 4 is satisfied. Where do you, on that hunger scale, where would you start eating and where would you stop eating at?
I generally try to start eating when I'm kind of just starting to get hungry. But definitely, having a busy schedule, sometimes it does go past that, which I find is a lot easier to make poor choices because by that point now I'm just craving.
If you get to ravenously hungry, then you're like, I don't care.
I'm not making good choices.
So you're just waiting until you're really hungry that you're eating. Okay. And then where would you say you're stopping eating at?
I would say I definitely have to make myself stop when I feel just satisfied because, I know me personally, I can definitely, I love food, so I could keep eating much further, but then afterwards I'm going to feel overstuffed. I'm going to feel like I probably ate too much where I'm not going to be maintaining.
So on a scale, would you say it would be like 3.7, 3.8, 4, 4.2? Where would you stop eating? when would you say, I'm going to stop eating now?
I would say probably 3.8.
So like 3.8, you'd stop eating, even though you're not quite satisfied. You're waiting until you're just below satisfied, because you know in 20 minutes I am going to be a lot more full. It just hasn't hit me
Well,
yet.
I think too that goes back to the portion control, because when you put a certain amount of food on your plate, you just kind of have the idea that you need to finish it. So I think it goes back to just putting those smaller portions originally, because there'll be times where I'm eating, I'm satisfied, but there's still a few bites left where, can I eat those? Yeah, of course, but then I'm going to feel stuffed.
That's awesome. So you would say that do you try to leave a few bites there, so you know, like, hey, I'm already at a 3.8 right now. Even though there's a couple plates, I don't need to clean my plate, because I know if I eat those couple bites, I'm going to be too stuffed.
Well, when it comes to eating at home, I would say I'm pretty good about just getting the appropriate portion to begin with, so I don't get stuck in that problem. But when I go out to eat, if it's a huge salad or a huge bowl of pasta or whatever it is, sometimes I'll actually have the waiter bring me a to-go box right in the beginning. I'll package half of it up, and then I'm excited because I have a whole meal for lunch tomorrow or something, and then also I just know what I'm going to eat on my plate.
Gotcha. Any other tips that you would say to people, that you would say, these are some things mentally that I say to myself that help me say, you know what, I'm not going to overeat? What does that self-talk look like for you?
For me, it's definitely a balance. I want to enjoy my life, and just being somebody who's social and likes food, and I want to be able to go out and do those things and enjoy the food and the drinks that I want to have. So I try to give myself grace when I do screw up, but I just try to stay focused of what my goals are. I know for me, especially owning my boutique and being the model for all my clothes, like I want to look and feel a certain way. It doesn't have to be to society's standards. It's my own standard of what I feel my best at. And I'm going to perform, I'm going to socialize, everything at my best when I'm feeling where I want to be physically. So I try to keep my goals in mind, but like I said, also giving myself grace, because
that's where that 80-20 comes
Yes.
in. Because you say, you know what, 20% of the time I'm going to eat whatever my body's craving and whatever I want.
Yeah.
But 80% I'm going to kind of stick to things that are going to fuel my body, and I'm going to feel my best. What are some of the things that are like the staples in your diet that you say, these are things that I eat on a regular basis? Like what is like a typical lunch for you look like? Like I eat a lot of this for lunch. What does that look like for you?
I would say salads. I try to stay away from the heavy dressings, but I'll load it up with vegetables. I feel like for me, my body responds better to a higher fat diet than a higher carb. And that's just something that you have to figure out on your own. But if I do more carbs, it's going to make me gain weight. So I can go have a salad and put some bacon and avocado on there. And that's going to be that little extra treat that's going to make my salad just that much better. But like I said, then I'll stay away from the heavy dressings that could just triple the calories. And then
So if you, let's say you had a salad, what would you put? Any dressing on it? Would you put a little bit of dressing? Would you say, look, there's already bacon on here, there's avocado on here? What would you say? Would you say I'll put maybe a half a teaspoon of dressing? Or you'd say, you know what, the avocado and the bacon has enough flavor, I don't need to add that?
Yeah, I would definitely put dressing. If I go to a restaurant, I'm going to look at the calorie content on the dressing packets. There are a few at the grocery store that I like that are pretty all natural, clean dressings, but they're also super low in calorie. So I think they're like a little more vinegar based. So I try to keep that in mind, or I'll make my own with like citrus and olive oil that I can put on, but I don't douse it in dressing. Just enough where it's satisfying, but you're not getting that overload.
Gotcha. I've heard people that kind of take their fork and dip it in the dressing, and then they, put it in there. Do you do that, or do you just drizzle it on there?
Like I said, I would be more inclined to go for a lower calorie option and be able to kind of dress it the way that I want, versus doing something much higher in calorie and fat and then having to really restrict myself on the amount.
Okay, and just talk about some of the indulgences that a little bit more that you go, these are kind of these are weekly indulgences that I have that I like, and talk about the amount of that you have. So we've had different people have come on and they say, like, I know one girl said, chocolate covered raisins, that's her thing, or chocolate covered almonds, that's their thing. But they have, 8 chocolate covered raisins or 8 chocolate covered almonds, and they kind of portion that out, and they know that amount is going to satisfy them. So what would that look like for you if you were going to indulge in something? What is it? What are some of the ones that are big indulgences that really you crave, and how much of that do you have?
Mine would be either, like I said, going out with friends, which might be going to a brunch where I might get eggs Benedict and hash browns, but that's going to just be my meal and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm not going to be hard on myself. There might be other indulgences that are kind of like more grazing snacks during the week where, like, I have 3 kids, so I always have Cheez-Its and Goldfish and potato chips on hand for them for school and stuff. So I might find myself in there grabbing a handful of Cheez-Its, but it might just be that, like just a few versus taking the box to my office. And
so would you say that's like 4 Cheez-Its or?
Maybe 10.
Okay. And then anything else that you can think of that you like to indulge on, and how much of it do you have?
Definitely a few cocktails during the week. So I try to minimize that where it's not every night. It might just be like 2 glasses of wine a couple nights a week. So probably that. But I also try, one of my tips is as much as I can, I try not to drink my calories. So I don't really do orange juice. I don't do milk. I don't do iced tea. And I feel like I could save a lot of calories throughout the day by just doing that. So as long as I drink water instead of all those other options, I feel like you can really cut back calories. And then drinking enough water is also going to make you feel full. So that's definitely one of my little tips.
I love that. I'm the same way. I do not like to drink my calories. I'd much rather eat them. Well, Sarah, thanks so much for coming. And if you want to find out, she's got some amazing clothes, amazing jewelry. If you look in the show notes, you can find her website and shop online. You can buy it wherever you're listening. And also follow Sarah on Instagram. You can see her modeling all of her clothes, and she's got amazing stuff on there. Well, thank you, Sarah, for sharing your tips, and we'll see you guys next time. If you have a question that you want answered, go to questions@chantelrayway.com. Bye-bye.